In this lesson, we talk about how to become excellent using any equipment. And it's a really important lesson, especially if you're just starting off, because it's not about the stuff that you own, but it's about how you use the stuff that you own. You want to use all of your equipment, no matter if it's the most expensive stuff in the world or if it's just stuff that you can afford, in such a way that honors your guests. And remember, the primary goal of this course is for me to give you the tools that you need and for you to walk away with these tools so that you can create a wedding DJ business that fascinates your guests and leaves them feeling like they've had the best wedding or event that they've been to in a long time. And we're going to go over this by learning this system. And the system is not dependent on any kind of controller, any kind of software, or any kind of speaker system. It's all about how to use the stuff that you have. And you want to choose the kind of equipment that's going to allow you to have success on repeat. So a huge line array speaker system that hangs down from a trussing system is probably not going to give you success on repeat, because you're going to need a team of people and a lot of time and a big truck in order to do that, and a lot of power in order to make that happen. But a line array speaker system definitely sounds awesome. It's just not going to give you success on repeat when you're just starting off. You want something that's a little bit easier to move around and store and test out. And there's stuff that's out there that is the best of the best, but that doesn't mean that you should choose it. You want to choose the stuff that's going to allow you to have success over and over and over again. It's going to be easy for you to pack up and go out there and get a gig. So sometimes that means that your equipment might not be the best of the best, but it might be appropriate for the event and the style that you're going after. Sometimes you have to choose inconvenient equipment that is all that you can afford at the moment, because that's what you have. And it's about knowing how to use that equipment, even if it is a little bit inconvenient, in order to still have a great event. So I want you to think differently about equipment. I don't want you to to understand that there's only one way, but that there are lots of ways of thinking about equipment. So here's a couple different theories, and I'm going to submit these to you to think about. The first theory is buy the best and cry only once, which means that you buy the best of the best stuff so that you're not replacing it and that's breaking down. And this is kind of an old proverb, and I don't even know where it came from, but buy the best and cry only once is the mentality that you buy the really, really nice pair of shoes so that after walking 1,000 miles, you're not tired and they're not falling apart, but that they're still really great shoes and can probably go for 20 more miles or 20,000 more miles. So you want to buy the best stuff so that you have to cry, so that you only cry once. And I would say that that's true probably for cables and speakers. You don't want to buy stuff that's going to be deteriorating when you use it after a few events. But then on the other hand, there's an old mantra of being wise with your money, that you want to be wise and save your money and be efficient with your money, and how you use coupons to get a good deal on things, and that you're not just throwing your money away, but that you take the time to use the Honey plugin for Chrome or whatever internet browser you're using so that you can get the best stuff at the best deal, and that you're not just throwing money out the window. But these things are kind of contradictory. We've got, on the one hand, buying the best equipment so that they're not breaking down, but on the other hand, getting a good deal on equipment. And I do have to say, these things are kind of at odds with each other at sometimes. And as a business owner, you have the opportunity to make the decision of which one you're going to go after. If you can afford the really nice speakers, go ahead and buy the really nice speakers and pay them off over time. If you cannot afford them, I would say get the speakers you can afford and then use them over and over so that then you can buy the speakers that you really want. But you don't just want to throw your money away. I think that buying a $3,000 DJ controller is probably not the best place to put your money right away. You want to start off with putting that $3,000 into speakers that are going to last you for your entire career, or speakers that are going to get you to that next level of income. So yes, these things are kind of at odds with each other of, you want to be wise with your money, but at the same time, you want to buy the best stuff. And you're not always going to be able to buy the best stuff. Sometimes you have to get the thing that is in the middle of the road and it's not going to last you a while, but it is going to allow you to earn the money and move you forward than if you wouldn't have had it at all. So I want you to think about equipment from that perspective of, as a business owner, you need to buy the things that are going to take you forward. You're going to buy the things that are going to propel you into an income stream that's even higher. And after you do 10 weddings, you're really in a place where you can charge even more money as a wedding DJ. So think about how you can start doing weddings with a decent pair of speakers that are loud enough, that are durable enough, that have the bass response that you want, and that kind of thing. And you want to know your equipment inside and out no matter what you have. Know its limits, know how loud it can go, know how soft it can go, know what kind of issues it has, if it's plugged in with a lot of other stuff, know its flaws, know where the issues are. Look on online forums and search about the pros and cons of all the stuff that you own, just so that you're aware of the potential failures, of the potential issues that you might run into. So I know for all of my equipment where its limits are, where how loud I can take it, how soft I can take it, where the common issues are that pop up. And that way I'm not surprised by them, but also that way if something comes up, I know exactly what to do to eliminate that problem and to get back into the groove of making things happen. But know how to troubleshoot, know how to tear down your equipment, know how to set it up, know how to appropriately pack it for maximum durability so that things aren't running into it in your car. And a lot of this comes down to your checklist. Have an equipment checklist and go over that checklist before every event and make sure that it's all reviewed and that it's all really there and it's all working and it's all going to serve you well. Test all of your equipment regularly. So before the gig, plug it all in, make sure it's all still working, test its limits, test its flaws, see how things are going. I will often test my speakers and test my computer for a 4 or 5 hour period. I'll put it on an autoplay and let it run just so that I make sure that I can get through 4 hours without any weird issues. And then because I know that, then I know that it's not an issue of longevity if something were to ever come up. So test your equipment and use a checklist to make sure that everything is working ahead of time. And you want to test that equipment for extended periods of time to see if over time there are any issues. Because I have found that sometimes the software will bug out after 6 hours. But the good news is I never need to have it for longer than 6 hours most of the time. So just, again, know your software, know your equipment, know what the limits are. You do not have to be defined by your equipment. You are not your equipment. You are the one who is using the equipment. And just like how a great musician can make any guitar sound beautiful, a great DJ can take any system and turn it into a really nice sounding system. Now, if the speakers are absolute crap and there's no chance in making them sound good without a ton of EQ, then I really can't help you there, because ultimately the speakers are if the speakers are the weakest link in your chain, that is probably the worst place to have a weak link. You want to have great sounding speakers that can really play music well and have a good frequency response. So that is where I encourage you to invest all of your money, or not all of your money, but the most of your money I would put into a good sounding speaker set. Also, be thinking about having the right equipment. You want to have equipment that isn't just the best of the best, but is appropriate for you. And we talked about that before, of you don't just need to have the things that everybody else is using, but the things that are going to be appropriate for the vehicle that you have, for the type of situation that you have. I know a guy who has a hatchback car, and he was not able to fit in large speakers, so he bought 8-inch speakers, but he bought the best ones he could possibly get. And 8-inch speakers can actually sound pretty good for a room less than 200 people, which is most weddings. So you can live with an 8-inch speaker, but so many people will go out and they'll buy 15-inch speakers because they think bigger and better. It's not really true. 15-inch speakers are going to be more heavy. They're going to take up more room in a vehicle, and unless you've got lots and lots of space, they might not be the best choice for you. And I would say from a sound perspective, it's usually 12-inch speakers that I would top out. I would never buy a larger speaker than 12 inches, and that's just from me for two reasons. Number one, I have small vehicles, so anything over 12 inches is going to be too large for my vehicle situation. But on top of that, I've talked to other sound engineers, and we have found that the vocal clarity really starts to deteriorate on speakers that are larger than 12 inches. So a 12-inch speaker is kind of the ideal size, and the 8-inch speakers and 10-inch speakers are a nice middle ground. Watch YouTube tutorials, read the manual, figure out from other gigs that you take on besides weddings how your equipment works and how other people have used that equipment in different scenarios, and just be really familiar with the stuff that you're walking in with. All right, I want to tell you a story of two speaker systems. The one speaker system is what I bought when I first started off, and another speaker system is a cheapo system that was about $300 that my friend bought to do weddings. I spent about, 9 and 9 is 900 and 900 is 1800. So I spent about 1800 on my speakers when I first started off. I got the QSE K12s at their prime list price, and I bought them using a Guitar Center credit card. They are really nice speakers. They have great bass response. They get loud, they are very musical, and they're just wonderful. I love my QSC K12 powered speakers, and they're also pretty lightweight. My friend went ahead and bought some cheapo speakers from Guitar Center or something. They were about $300 for the pair. And he told me that he was doing a wedding once, and he had them up all the way, and they were starting to distort, and people were asking for it to be louder. And he was so embarrassed because the dance floor people were into dancing, but they wanted it to be louder, and he literally could not turn it up because the speakers were at their max. You need to know this about your equipment, and you need to know it before you're on the dance floor and people are asking you to turn it up. The speakers that I use these days they get really loud, but they're also really expensive speakers. So I can go all the way up to 130 decibels, no problem. It's not healthy to do that, and it's not what people really want, but I love knowing that I can go up into the upper 100 decibel range without damaging my speakers and with also being able to have that kind of oomph. And that's really nice for outdoor settings when the sound dissipates a lot quicker. So think about your speakers and think about how you're going to be using them. And if you have the cheapo speakers that are less than $500 for the two of them, you're probably not going to be able to really serve people well on the dance floor. So I recommend spending around $1,000 for a pair of speakers if they're going to be your first pair. And then from there, think about how you can get a pair of subs or how you can do the line array type system or even go into that next range where you're getting the speakers that have nice bass response up on the mid tops themselves. The first DJ controller that I ever used was an $88.18 DJ controller. It was a Numark Mixtrack USB. It was not an audio interface, so it didn't have any audio coming out of it. It was just a MIDI controller essentially to control my software. And I used that to do 7 gigs successfully. I used it so that I could get people dancing better. When I was just using my computer, it was kind of hard to queue up the next song and to always hear it in my headphone because I was using my headphone output to go over to the mixer. But when I changed over to my the Numark Mixtrack, I was able to split out the output and have the main sound going over to the speaker system, and then I was able to queue up the songs in my ears and hear them on the fader that was down. So think about how you can buy an affordable controller. And again, I use that for 7-some weddings, so I made thousands of dollars with that $88 controller, and that is good business. When you can buy something that is that cheap and then make money on top of it. And then with all of that money, I was able to get a really great wireless system. I was able to get better lights. I was able to get better stands. I was able to get a better setup. So use things that are good enough and that are going to get people dancing, that are going to make you feel confident walking into the gig, so that then you can make more money and buy the stuff that you really want to use or buy the stuff that's more convenient and a little bit more fun. So I use that at a lot of non-wedding events. I used it for dances and for parties and stuff. And this wasn't something that I loved. Like, I didn't love using that DJ controller, but it gave me the control I needed to serve those events. And it gives me the control I need now, even as I do events. So, like, I still have this thing and I don't use it all the time, but it's an option that I have where if I ever need to control the software, I have a backup ready to go. So again, you don't need to have the best equipment out there, the most expensive equipment out there that's going to break the bank. You need to have the right tool for the job, and DJ controller mixers are really nice to make sure that all the music is fading, cross-fading nicely, and that you can queue up the next song, that you can do some beat matching, some speeding up, some slowing down. I don't do a ton of scratching personally. It's just not my thing, but having the nice jog wheel allows you to find the place in the song so that you can cue it right up at the chorus or etc. So having a nice big mouse is what I think about it. It's like a nice computer mouse to help me navigate the music and to get to the right point in each of the songs. So I just encourage you to consider this quote from Voltaire: "Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good." Sometimes we want to have the most perfect stuff, and it allows us to just feel unsatisfied. It allows us to be discontented. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. You can use what you have, and you can do a great job with what you have. So set the bar at a level that makes sense for business and not just what's the best of the best. So I want you to repeat after me. I have a couple affirmations I want you to think about. I do not need to buy ridiculously expensive equipment to be a great wedding DJ. I do not need to buy ridiculously expensive equipment to be a great wedding DJ. I can learn how to use the equipment I have or can afford really well so it becomes second nature to me. I can learn how to use the equipment I have or can afford really well so it becomes second nature to me. I can get into the wedding DJ business without buying the most expensive equipment. A DJ should not be defined by their equipment, but by their ability to execute a great event. I can get into the wedding DJ business without having to buy the most expensive equipment. A DJ shouldn't be defined by their equipment, but by their ability to execute a great event. I want you to remember, you're not just DJing for fun or for a hobby, you're doing this to run a business. So get enough of the right equipment to run a business so that you can walk into any gig, know exactly what to do, and do a good job, that there are no surprises or limits to your setup. So here's some questions regarding equipment that you want to think about. Where are you going to plug this in? Do you have a power strip? Do you have a rack mount power unit? Do you have a long extension cord? Where is the power going to be when you get there? Where is your location that you're setting up, and where is the power in relation to that? Where are these cable runs going to be, and do you have tape, and do you have the things that you need so that you can plug all this stuff in? The first thing I think about whenever I go to an event is where's the power, and how can I have that all plugged in and ready to go? Be thinking about your speaker locations. Are they pointed in the right direction so that they are serving people well? Are they nice and tall above the crowd so that they're not getting lost and getting muddy? If you have your tweeters within the speakers that are pointing at people, those high frequencies they're going to get lost because they're going to be pointed right at somebody, and it's going to sound muddy for everybody else in the room. So that's why you fly your speakers as high as you can. Or just you want to fly them above everybody's heads so that the high frequencies aren't getting lost in the room. You want to think about what music is best going to serve the event, not just what's your favorite music or what's the music that and this is probably for non-wedding events. What music are you going to put on as soon as your stuff is plugged in? Have that ready to go. Have it in your back pocket so that it can go in immediately, because there is nothing worse than seeing a DJ setup and hearing no music. It feels like something's missing. It feels like something is wrong. So what music are you going to play immediately? And then it's not about what equipment or software you have. It's about how you use what you have and knowing how to deliver the goods with that equipment. So what software are you using? Do you know how to use that software in and out? And is the software updated? Is it ready to go? Is it ready to use? Are you ready to plug the songs into it that you need for that gig? Now, don't get me wrong. Good equipment and reliable software is massively important. It is massively important. But at the same length, you do not need to buy the most expensive stuff just to get started. You do not need to spend $20,000 or $30,000 just to get started. Over time, I have spent that much or more, but just to get started, you probably need to invest between $1,000 and $2,000 just to get speakers, stands, microphones, mixer, nice music subscription, those things. Look at the wedding equipment checklist video that's also included, and that document that walks through all the items. But and also look at DJ Lou Harris's pricing page when he talks about what the average DJ has versus what a professional DJ has, and know that you can work from that left column over into the right column. The professional DJ has been able to buy all those things using money from lots of gigs. So you can afford to get the Sennheiser G3 microphones after a few gigs, but if you are just starting off and you don't even have a great speaker system yet, I don't think you should spend your money in that area. Get a few cables. Like I said, it's not convenient to run 100-foot cables to do a toast, but I did it before because I was not able to afford wireless mics at the time, and it's what I needed to do in order to earn that money to then buy those wireless mics. So that's how I always calculate everything. If I want to buy something, I think about how many gigs do I need to do in order to buy that item, and then I do 2 of those gigs so that I can pay for the equipment and make profit off of it afterwards immediately. So you always want to be able to learn how you can make profit off of your purchases. You don't just want to break even. If you spend $700 on a lavalier microphone and you only make $700 at that event, you didn't profit anything, but you did pay for that lavalier. So you really need another event to make profit off of that, to make that purchase worthwhile. Because if the event just pays for the asset, then you're left with an asset, but then you're not using it now to make extra money. So I always like to figure out how I can make money on top of the asset that I've purchased. So if I buy something for $700, I want to make $1,400 using that thing, knowing that I can not only break even, but also make another $700 off of it very quickly, because that thing is going to be able to continue making you money because you now own that, and it's a big piece of your role, and it's going to allow you to have that peace of mind and a lot more flexibility. But in the early days, you might have to sacrifice convenience for price. So if you can't afford the more expensive stuff, you might just need to run a long cable run, and that's totally okay. Now keep in mind, you must show up and deliver, not just with your attitude and your personal appearance and your equipment, but to be able to use that equipment well. You have to show up with that equipment knowing how it all works, knowing how it all plugs in, and whatever equipment you have, that you've mastered it, that you know how it's going to work for dancing, that you know how it's going to work for speeches and music playback, and that you know how to set it up and you know how to tear it down. This one time I saw a DJ, this was like at a race or something, and he was trying to set up his speakers, but he wasn't sure where the hole was in the speaker, and it was like he was looking at the speaker for the first time. In fact, I think I even remember there's a little bit of a wrapper still over the logo. So I bet you he had just bought these within the past week or so, and he hadn't even tested them out. He waited until the event to use them. So don't do that. Show up ready to go with your equipment, knowing how to use it, knowing where it all fits in, how to set it up, but also how to use it really well. So now I want to go over the 3 P's of equipment criteria. So these are 3 P's that are going to help you evaluate equipment no matter what era it is. If this is 15 years down the road, I would still evaluate equipment based on these 3 criteria, these 3 P's: portability, performance, and professionalism. Number 1, portability. That's the size, the weight, and the durability. Is it going to be able to fit in your vehicle? Could you carry this across a field if you needed to in order to set it up? Because that might happen for one of these vineyard weddings, or if you need to do an event that's a little bit off in the countryside, which I happen to do sometimes. So think about the portability and how it's going to fit from the place where you store the equipment to when you're actually going to be using it in front of people. And is it going to be durable? Is it going to work? Is it roadworthy, or is it studio quality? You can buy great speakers that sound good in the studio, but they're designed just to sit there all day. You need speakers that are going to be roadworthy, that can go outside, that can go on poles or sticks and sound good in front of everybody, but also be able to wear well over time, and that they're still going to work with some roadworthiness applied to them. Number 2, performance is the second piece. So the first one was portability. The second is performance. Can they get loud? Can they get soft? Are they scratchy, or are they nice and clean and clear? Can they have a great frequency range? Can it go into the low end? And also, there's a nice vocal clarity in the higher end? Can they work for hours without any issues, without overheating, or without something malfunctioning, or without some kind of weird timer going off? Some of these Mackie speakers have these built-in timers where if they're not used for a few minutes, the mute button will turn on or something. So can it perform well? Do you know that it's going to be reliable in front of a crowd of people? And then lastly, professionalism. This idea of professionalism is that your speakers look good, that they have a nice aesthetic quality to them, that they're reliable, that they're going to be able to follow through with the commitment that you've made for that event, that you're going to be able to facilitate the dancing with those speakers, that you can use these things to follow through with what you said you could do, this idea of professionalism, that it's going to work for music, that it's going to work for dancing. So these 3 P's are a way that you can evaluate any equipment that you're buying, both whether it's speakers, whether it's a microphone, or whether it's even bags that you're going to use to store this stuff in going to and from a gig. Some more criteria that you might think about are, do you have something ready to go for Master of Ceremonies, for your own announcing? Do you have a mic for somebody else to speak into? And is it tuned up, and is it ready? Is it going to feed back, and etc.? Do you have background music ready to go that's going to be appropriate? And are you going to be able to use this equipment under pressure, or is it only convenient when you have a ton of time to research it? You want to know how to use this equipment quickly. And again, just be thinking through all of these things every time you make a purchase. When we make purchases for our own personal preferences, we often pick things that are fun, that make us feel good when we use them. When you make a purchase for business, you need to make something that makes sense for business. That means you're going to be able to make money off of it. You're going to be able to perform with it. You're going to be able to do a job with it. And most importantly, if you do not pick things that are going to allow you to do your job, you're going to be put in a compromising situation. Nobody cares how cool your setup is if it's not able to perform well under pressure. So brainstorm, what can you do this week to execute with the equipment that you have, to go out and use it at a real event, to use this stuff so that it's serving people well and that you can put it to its paces, and all the things we've been talking about. Some other questions. Should you ever work for free? Well, no, you shouldn't work for free. You're worth something, and it's better to get paid a little something, even if it's $100, than nothing at all. But at the same length, in Seth Godin's Freelancer course, he explains that you must get paid when you deliver the goods. So if you're not at a point yet where you can deliver the goods, maybe you do need to do it for free so that you can make your talent and your abilities up to par with the amount of money that you'd like to earn. So I'm not saying that you should work for free, but hone your craft so that you know your equipment and that you can show up with equipment that really delivers that final result. Some real events that you can use to test equipment are community events. bingo nights, outdoor races, background music for audio at a banquet, maybe dance music for a neighborhood party, or maybe you just DJ for your family at a family gathering. So be thinking about real events where you can get your equipment set up and working and serving people and doing all of these things that you would do at a wedding. If you're trying to figure out how you can get a test gig so that you can figure out how to use your equipment, here's what I would say. I would reach out to somebody and I'd say, hello, I'm a DJ. I'm looking for some opportunities to get exposure and use my equipment. Would you be interested in having music and audio support for your upcoming bingo night, your upcoming fundraiser? Most of the time, people are going to say, yeah, that'd be awesome. Sometimes they might decline, and that's fine. Ask somebody else. But be thinking this in the process. It's an excellent opportunity for you to hone the essential skills you need to do weddings. And once you do those weddings, it's going to pay off because once you do these free events or once you do these low-cost events, you're going to be able to do a wedding, and that's where the payday comes. So don't just write off these events as things that are not worth your time, because you can use these to set yourself up then to do an amazing wedding, and then you're going to start paying yourself back, you're going to start getting better equipment, and you're going to be able to move yourself up the ladder in this industry. So that is the secret of doing this, is that you take on the events that you need to grab the experience that you need and the comfortability that you need, and then you just keep going up a little bit, and you do another one, and then you do a wedding, and the wedding is when you get paid for it, and then you're able to buy better stuff in order to continue the whole process. And I'll leave it up to you if you want to take on free gigs later on once you're established, but like right now I don't really take on a ton of free gigs, but I love that I can if I wanted to. Like for instance, the other day I was talking to my wife about helping out at her school. She's a teacher, and I just want to help them out, and I don't even want to charge them for anything. I just want to make it a fun event, and they have like an upcoming fundraiser or something, and I want to be able to donate my services, not just because I want to get more business out of it, but because I want that event to be really good, and I have the experience of what it takes to make an event a really fun time and to have all of the microphones and the stuff that you need in order for that to be the case. So when you get to the point where you can donate your services or think about that, you can totally make that decision on your own. But in the early days, do it just to grab that experience and to have that mindset that then you can go into a wedding with greater confidence because you know how to serve people well. So there's another video after this one that goes into all the details in my equipment checklist, and you may have gotten this for free if you saw it on Facebook. It's a really action-packed, high-value training. It's about 30-some minutes that we go through all of the tiny things that you need in order to DJ, and just know that take it with a grain of salt. This is what I use these days. This is what I notice that other people are using in the industry, but you can almost use anything as long as it allows you to serve the purpose. So you can start off with just speakers on stands going into a laptop, but you're going to be limited. You're not going to have a great microphone, so that's why you need eventually a mixer, and then you can start off with an analog mixer, but then upgrade later on to a digital mixer. There's all different ways to do it. So in the next video, we go over the essential equipment that you need, the checklist that you need to go over, and you can also swipe my checklist and use it as your own, but also just think about the things that you will need over time so that you even have a buying plan of what you might be able to buy over the next 5 years, over the next 3 years, over the next 2 years, so that you can be able to earn more money, but then make your job a little bit easier as you go. So I'll see you in the next video.